All right, Steve, thanks so much for being with us today. I am so excited to talk to you, to get to not only know you more, but really to learn more about Playermaker and you to tell us all about this technology. But before we jump into all of that, can you please introduce yourself and the organization you work for, and then what's your current position at your organization?
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having me, first of all, and thank you for the invite as well. My name's Steve Barrett. I'm currently the Vice President of Sports Performance and Research Innovation at Playermaker, which is a very long-winded title to basically say that I do quite a lot, mainly around performance consulting for like some of the top level teams and major kind of projects, including like grassroots as well. I've also look after all the research and innovation activity for the company as well. So whether that be exploring new sports, new activities, or new initiatives, so things like talent identification, or even looking at testing modalities using Git, that's kind of like where my remit is as well. But the background that I had leading into this role, I was actually a practitioner for multiple years, so around 15 years working within professional soccer, international soccer over here across the Premier League, the EPL, like the Championship, and also the international team, which some of the players I used to work with just won a major European trophy last week. So that was always a nice kind of end to the week as well. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me. But I actually bought the product as a client first of all, and now I'm working trying to improve the product as well.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you had bought it first before you started working.
Yeah, I was a client for years. So when I worked for a club called Hull City, who were like, we were basically like an EPL team, but we weren't ever good enough to stay there. So we came down and up and down. So yeah, and we have relegation, unlike a lot of the sports over in the US. It's like, okay, you could finish in the bottom three, you get relegated, then you get promoted again. And we basically bought the product to try and help improve our players' ability to focus on their technical actions, possession statistics, but also help us with internal talent ID while looking at kicking risk injury mechanisms, which we'll probably get onto some of those topics when we talk about future uses and everything else as well. So, which is where like a lot of my job kind of motivation, inspiration has come from, because what I was wanting to do with top level elite athletes is how can we translate that across everyone from top level elite athletes all the way through to little Joe playing on a soccer field on a Sunday when his mum and dad have got an app on their phone and they want to help him improve.
Yeah, that's so cool. Um, I should mention that you are Dr. Steve. So, can you tell us about your qualifications for what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I spent 10 years at university over in England at the University of Hull, did my undergraduate degree in sports coaching and performance, then did a master's degree in sports science, and then finally a PhD, which my thesis title was actually looking into the use of wearable technology for performance and injury uh, prevention, although we term that injury risk reduction. And it was basically looking at the different locations of accelerometers on the body. Because back in, and this is going to show my age, back in 2011, when I started my PhD, there was no such things as wearable tech that you could put onto the boots. It was very much like the GPS units that everyone's familiar with now had only just come out. And I was fortunate, I was one of the first users in the UK and in the world to be using this technology. So I kind of like had all these questions that there weren't any answers to. So the PhD was in and around exploring that. So which I did that part time while I was still working full time in like different environments. So it was that kind of application of sports technology into real world is probably what's the biggest strength I have is to work in for the company I do now. So it helps me educate people into how to use technology. Also can help me educate people internally about what my old former self would look at and what people in the field would want to look at now, whether that we work with top athletes, as I say, or the youth athletes, where can we get the best value for them?
That that's you. So, in other words, you have a lot of credentials to be able to talk about this topic, specifically wearables, and this interview is going to really live in the technology chapter, and so you're probably going to be put right beside the wearable technology section. So you're the perfect person for this. So let's go on to Playermaker, and can you tell us a little bit about what it is, and then what core problem do you feel like that Playermaker aims to solve in the industry?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the general like performance problems we have in the industry is that probably over the last 20 years, and again, like I include myself in this, like sports scientists, physical trainers, physios, physical therapists, they've all been focused on what does an athlete do from a physical perspective, like how far do they run, how quick do they run, like so what are they doing? Because that's how we know how to program. Okay, like today we're going to run a 5 kilometer run. Okay. And from our athletics days, like from all the research, we know that, okay, this is how we program. Oh, we should do this today. We should do that today. That's our aim. But that doesn't always work in team sports, especially when it's like randomly moving. Like a goalkeeper runs 5 kilometers in a full 90-minute match. So if we're asking the outfield player to run 5K in a full game, what's the point? Why? Like, are they being effective? Are they not? And that's where one of the biggest problems was how are they doing it in relation to the context of the game? And so at like the top level, there's all these hundreds of thousands of dollars, pounds, millions of dollars of pounds in like other sports of technology to provide these kind of insights around context into the sport. But when you go to the training environment or the youth level, there was never really that context there. So coming back to what I was saying about buying it as a practitioner, one of the biggest problems I had was, well, I'm monitoring soccer players and I don't monitor the soccer actions. I'm using soccer very much as part of this to avoid football, so apologies if I slip into football at any point.
That's okay.
Like with the kicking side of soccer, which is one of the biggest determinants of success, you shoot, you cross, you clear the ball, we don't monitor it. So I started off early in my career as a technical coach. I was like full-time, like qualified soccer coach, and then transitioned into this like more sports science, performance aspect. So with both hats on, I've always been fascinated about, well, how are we going to really paint the full picture? Because I know that when they do a 5v5 or a rondo, they ain't moving much, but they're kicking the ball a lot, which actually is a bit of physical loading, but it's not picking up on the GPS unit. So are my players not working hard enough, or are they just working in a different way? And do we need to be smarter about how we monitor our athletes? Certainly. When I come down to the youth level, so like in my last role, I oversaw like the full club, so from first team through to like our under nines with staff in between. And when you go to like a 12-year-old, am I bothered about how far they run? Not really. Am I bothered about if they're technically good enough? Yes. How are we tracking that technical development? Okay. So there was multiple problems that were like starting to marry up. And on top of that, then to actually look at the technical insights, I would have to employ a staff member to just film the games, then sit for hours just tagging all the time that someone was individually taking touches. And this is obviously before AI crept in and some really good tools there as well. Where we come to now, which is where Playermaker, which is this two small IMU devices, so inertial measurement units, about this size. So one goes on the left foot, one goes on the right foot, and they fit into this small silicone straps as well that go around the soccer player's cleats. This sits on the outside of the boot as well. The idea is that when you wear this, it'll pick up every single step you do and then every single kick of the ball you do. When I first saw it as a client, I was like, okay, this is answering a lot of those performance questions. But when you get it in the building, how can you optimize the usage of the system as well? So we saw there was like some really good potential with the technical side of it and the kicking, and it was giving us good returns on that. But actually, what we were finding was, well, there's no GPS in this unit, so how is it telling us how far they run? You go, it's looking at the stride patterns, it's looking at the gait metrics and all to calculate that. Oh, that's really useful information for me when I'm looking at injury risk reduction and return to play for my rehab players. Can I get hold of that data? And the company's like, uh, yeah, is it useful? I'm like, yes, please. So actually getting to work with them and develop that while I was a client was then one of the reasons I ended up going on board with the company was to develop that further. And that's ultimately been one of the biggest use cases for the elite teams that use us is around the gait metrics and the kicking metrics. So part of my job now is scoping out like Playermaker in different sports and applying that same knowledge then to, okay, how does this impact American football players or basketball players and so on. But when we come to the youth development pathway again, we start to see, okay, we've been able to do it on a team basis. How can we now offer it as an individual solution which work with the product team? How can we have a pocket coach? How can we have a pocket lab so that it doesn't matter if you've got a sports scientist there or not, you can get your mum or dad to do it, you can get your coach to do it. So, which has been the progression really. So using these small like sensors with a mobile phone app, with an iPad app, just means that we can empower anyone, anywhere in the world to really utilize and gain elite insights as well. So the ending phrase I'll say is like we try to provide elite insights for everyone that's understandable for everyone.
Oh my gosh, this is so fascinating. Okay, so tell us a little bit. So they wear the little what do you call it? The chip?
Yeah, sensor chip. It depends
Sensor.
what type of world we call it, but yes, we'll call it sensor.
Okay, sensor. Okay, so they wear it on their cleat with the band, and then is it real time data that it goes to the app, all the metrics that it's doing, or do you have to kind of wait for a few minutes before it uploads? Like, tell us about the whole process that a user would experience.
Yeah, so they wear it on the cleats. So basically, you take it off, and now this is where our different products go because what we're finding with our market research, with our market research, consumers may not be able to absorb the real-time information. And the worst thing that we would want is like a parent still on the sideline, sees the kid's information, they run over to the coach, say, hey, he's not done this enough, you need to do this or that. So we have like different software packages level. So at the elite level, they can be there with an iPad, looking through all the technical data and the physical data, streaming through on an iPad. Whereas on the consumer level, it's very much before and after. So it's a chance for them to review it. Now, if a grassroots kid wanted to pay X amount for the elite version, they could get it live, but very much it's like we want to make sure that there's education with the data as well. So in the app, it's like, okay, this is what happened to your score. This is the reason why. Here's a training drill that could help you improve that as well. Whereas at the elite level, those guys are like very experienced, very well qualified in that they don't want us to be telling them what to do. So actually, like, here's the data, here's more data, do with it as you feel is fit for who's in front of you as well.
So
Um,
at the elite level, is it used in competition or real time? Like, could a coach see like, oh, like they're missing this aspect or they're not doing XYZ and could tell a player like, hey, start to do XYZ, whatever it would be?
if they wanted to, yeah, it comes down to that big word context again as well. And I think like that's where really as an industry, like live data was probably one of the last things that we developed purely because like the education around the information, like we don't want technical staff or coaches to see our technology as stopping them train. Like we don't want it to be that's the thing that I don't want that because my old sports scientist told me I can't do this, can't do that for it as well. So we want to make sure the education's right. And sometimes with new information, education isn't always like there immediately. So you need that embedding time, that technology adaptation time as well. So like even in some of the projects now we're doing in other sports, it's like we can give them live data, but actually like let's keep it and feedback afterwards because it gives us time to process and understand like what the they want and what's most relevant for the target audience who's receiving the data as well. And I think that's the biggest thing. We can do it. We do it with some clients, but not with everyone because the education's a big thing for us as well.
Yeah, that's such a good excuse me. That's such a good understanding of kind of your placement of of the product. That the education piece is so important for you guys, and I want to get back to that in a second. But can you walk us through what kind of data is collected using Playermaker? Specifically, what are, if a coach or a parent or a player was looking at the data, what are they looking at? What is the data that they are getting from the app?
Yeah, so I'll start off with the elite level stuff and now go into the consumer stuff as well, because then you'll be able to see like how we kind of, again, education creeps in. So at the elite level, like players and coaches and like practitioners can have access to physical metrics, so things like distances covered, different speeds, excels, decels, whatever kind of thresholds they want. They can also have technical outputs as well, so number of touches, left versus right foot, how much time do they spend on the ball, like is it a short session, is it a long session? And then if everyone's wearing the units together, we can actually look at pass completion rate, who's lost the ball, how many times did you win the ball back? How many times did you lose the ball? And who passed to who? So all those kind of passing networks, which then that all goes into an XML file so that we can automate the video as well. Then we've also added like gait analysis. So look at your imbalances, which relates to injury risk. So contact time, flight time, stride length, all at different speeds, and then change your direction. So you can see how we've gone from increasing our physical and session-based statistics to now focusing on like more non-standard physical outputs as well to kind of paint a better picture of the context around the total movement. Now, when we get to the consumer level, because there's a lot there, there's a lot we could go into. So I think like within our exports, we've got like 350 odd variables now, which is way too much for anyone. But we might have someone in the States that wants these 10 metrics, someone over in Australia that wants these 10, someone in Asia that wants these 10. And it's like, do we just remove them or do we provide everything and then they can choose? And so that's kind of like our motto at the minute, is that you can choose, and that's where the education to pick metrics for your players are from. Like we even have like the same system being used in the club in different ways. So first team might use it with goalkeepers, and they're looking at kicking loads and excels, decels, so ability to come out 1v1 situations. And then the youth level, they don't look at any physical data. They're just purely looking at how many touches do you have? How much time do you get on the ball? Are we doing our job as technical coaches? Now, when I talk about all that, there's a lot of information there. So to take that then to a consumer level, so okay, there's not probably room in anyone's like kind of space to really absorb that. So what we did was kind of like amalgamated those metrics and created something that's a bit like the soccer game FIFA, a bit like the soccer like scorecards on there. So actually like making it a bit gamified as well for the kids so that they can understand it. So here's the score, 0 to 100. This is where you're at. No one really gets below 40 to make sure that everyone's like happy and not feeling like they're too low in certain areas. But we'll have, to summarize all those scores, we'll have what's your first touch score, what's your technical balance score, agility, speed, and then there's always one more that I forget because we keep and power. So it's like, here's your 5 metrics, here's your spider diagram. This is how you improve over time. You want to compare yourself to someone the same age as you? Do you want to compare yourself to one of your friends? We take those 5 metrics and your scores will change based upon who you're comparing yourself to as well. So if I'm like a 12-year-old, like little girl from North Carolina or Indiana, like, and I want to compare myself to like one of the NWSL stars or one of the US women's national team that wears the units. I can do, but my scores will change very. So I might be an 80 when I compare myself to a under 12 girl from similar region. When I compare myself to the US women's national team, I might go down to 40. And so that's how we kind of like take all those advanced elite metrics, create 5 simple metrics. And if people do want to dive into it, it's like, here's an explanation of what agility looks like. This is change direction, this is this and so
So
on.
interesting. Okay, so what do, for those of us that don't play soccer, what do those, specifically those 5 metrics, tell us about, or tell a coach or a player or a parent? What is it, how does it translate to what they want to know in order to improve on their soccer skills?
I think the big thing with soccer, it's like, because it's a sport that requires both physical requirements and the technical skill, players don't just need to improve one or the other. Like, yes, if you train physically, it might have a effect on the other aspects, but realistically, you need to train both in conjunction together. So the idea is that like we want to be able to help youth players, athletes, whoever's using it, get a better understanding of where the strengths are and where their areas of development or improvement are as well. So, for example, if I take the first touch score, like, okay, if I have a low first touch score, but all my other scores are high, how can I go and improve my first touch? Well, on our City Play app, so we have two like consumer-based models. One is Playermaker and one is City Play. And the City Play is a partnership with Manchester City. And on that one, you actually have some of the players giving some feedback. Then you also have the coaches that, again, machine learning AI generated. Like, if you get this score, okay, your first touch score has come down. Here's an example drill that you can go do to practice and improve your first touch. So it's providing that education back because otherwise you're just providing numbers and there's no context to it. So here's the numbers, here's the context to it, here's the context behind how you can improve it. And let's keep doing that. If you do that for a period of 4 to 6 weeks, you should see improvement if you're doing it as we prescribe. And we tend to see, like in general, especially like over a 3 month period of using the system, like you tend to see improvements anywhere between 10 to like 45% with some metrics as well. So just simply being aware of numbers, because let's put it this way, if I tell we're all human at the end of this, someone says, you're not doing this too well at the minute, in a better language than that, I should say. You could do this better. This is how you do it. Okay, I'll try that. Oh, I am doing it better. Oh, I feel better. So it's like that whole Whoop. So like imagine like Whoop for kids, like okay, but in a passion, in a hobby that they like, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna improve. So you take any kid and take them to the sport they love and say, this is how you could get better to give you a better chance of going to that level, they'll jump at it. So that's what we're trying to empower kids to learn better from the app, but also better inform coaches and parents from an objective point of view, because you could get me and you watch a soccer game or any sport and we go, oh, that player did well. And you turn around, no, they didn't. That player did well. They didn't do very well because it's opinions as well.
Yeah,
So,
that's so good. Yeah, objective data versus actual data, right? So you alluded to it a little bit, but can you walk us through the different products that you have, or maybe it would be better to say to services, because you have Playermaker and then you have, what was the other one?
City Play.
City Play. Okay. So what are those your only two primary products? And just tell us about what the different types of products that you have and kind of how they each are used.
Yeah. So if I start with City Play is a consumer-led device, so direct to consumer product. And that will tend to be given or bought by kids, parents. We've had some example of some elite teams buy it, but it's not fit for purpose for what they want. And so that's basically individual unit goes to an individual phone and very much like a consumable product as well. So user use it, consumes that information one-to-one basis. Then with Playermaker, and Playermaker is both an elite team product, a consumer individual product, and also like can be anywhere in between. So we kind of have different offerings. So the consumer product, you have the City Play and the Playermaker, and that's just basically a different skin on the app. And City Play will have the like ad training advice. So that's like Playmaker is like unbranded product. City Play is a branded product with additional kind of insight. So the price difference reflects that you're paying for the information and education on the app, which I think is about $20-30 per year kind of difference. Then we have like three different team-based options, which are all under Playermaker, but you have Playermaker Team Plus. So you might have your kids, 10 of them have bought the individual unit, they all have it on the phone, but it all syncs to a dashboard where a coach can see a team report rather than having to look at everyone's phone. The next one is that like there's a team charging case, very similar to something like this. I'll just open the case so you can see where they all come multiple units. This is a prototype, so apologies, but they all come in multiple charging ports. You have like a team case, you carry that to the field, you give the units out, and that's like the basic level is Team Advance, where you get the team case, but everything else is like data is limited. But then you have the Elite, which is basically the same modular system. You can have as many units, but you can have as much data as you like as well. So there's all these kind of like, there are like two kind of main products, City Play and Playmaker, but Playmaker can have like, we build modular systems in order to adapt it to the client as well. So we try not, it's the same technology, but the software and the data availability differs depending on who is the end client as well, which then alters the pricing accordingly.
Yeah, that's a great distinction. So the technology itself, what they're wearing, is the same for both City Play and Playermaker, but the software that they have access to is different between the two. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, and then so on the Playermaker side, then it can be, and correct me if I misunderstood, it can be used for an individual, it can be used, or it can be used, and it can be used for a team, correct?
Yes.
On the City Play side, is that just individuals, or do you have teams or clubs using City Play as well?
We have some like recreational teams using like the Team Plus version of City Play, but it tends to be Playmaker because again, on a professional level, like we well, we advise our sales team not to go sell. This is a City Play product by Man City. You should buy it. We wouldn't walk into Liverpool and say that. So again, like that's where the more elite you go, the less co-branded we would be, unless it was like a game changing kind of like but it's the consumer product is where because of the target audience, that's where the co-branded products can appeal to better fan bases. And actually what we found is because of the Man City engagement, we have people that have bought the product who like the look of the product, but are not Man City fans and they don't want to touch the Man City product, so they buy the other product as well.
Interesting, interesting. Um, so let's talk about the business side, who your typical customer is. So on the City Play side, it sounds like it's more individuals. Is your typical customer on that side youth athletes, or is it any age? Who would be your typical customer that you would say is on City Play?
So for City Play, we tended to have our initial aims were to have in between 12 to 18-year-olds. So that kind of like secondary school, high school age, whereby like players are just getting a little bit more serious about the sport as well. So try and provide a pathway for them as well. What it's turned out to be is that we have kids anywhere from 5 to 6 year olds all the way through to like 70, 80 year olds like using the product as well, which wasn't expected. And so we thought people might do it younger. We wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but the feedback we've been getting is like a 7 year old still wants to know how many touches you've done, and the parents love being able to challenge them and give them rewards based on, okay, you've done 3,000 touches this week. Well done. You get an extra like snack or something like that. I don't know. Probably not one nutrition point to recommend that, but an extra apple snack. I don't know. But then even like I don't know how big walking football is like over in the States, for example, but walking football in the UK and like in Europe has grown popularity with retired people and like very similar to like the other wearable watches, rings, wrists. It's like they all just want to be smarter about how they train and play and just know what they're doing and have competitions with each other. So actually, that's where it's been a surprising engagement. So we aim for that youth athlete, which tends to be the more UK based. We call it like the grassroots warrior, which is like a non-professional, like amateur team, but very much they act like a professional outfit as well. So very much like your teams in the ECNL, your MLS Next kind of level in the US, to give examples, like they're the kind of target audience I would say that are buying like the individual product of City Play as well. Um, from Playermaker side, that's where at the elite level. So probably just before we go on to that, about 80 to 85% of our business is the consumer now. Whereas very much when I first joined, it was 100% elite team kind of level communication. It was a small company when I joined, like, but now we've got over like 45,000, 50,000 active users at the minute on the consumer level. And on the B2B, we've got over 150 like team using the team system as well.
Wow. um, wow. Okay. So on the Playermaker side, who's using it on that side? Is it youth athletes? Is it the parents that are mainly buying it? Is it clubs that get it? Who's your main target there?
So on the consumer Playmaker side, similar to City Play, parents, grassroots kids are buying it. On the team level basis, it's mainly the coaches and the organizations. So that could be it's depending on the use case again. So we at the time of this call, we had around 50% of the EPL. We're hoping that that percentage will go a bit higher in the next few months with some conversations. And so they tend to come from sports scientists, medical staff, goalkeeper coaches. So it's very much about they think about the problem that we're solving, and then they're the main users as well. So which is what I really like about the product. It's like not one size fits all. It's like very much you guys have your problem, you can solve that. It can be used for that, but these guys are ready for this technology, or that's not a question for them. Like um, it's very much a case of sports scientists, physiotherapists, physical therapists, like some technical develop. Like we have the role over here in Europe quite a lot, and I think it's just coming over to the MLS a fair bit. Is where there's like individual technical development coaches that are like creeping in, so specialists, which you have in like football, American football, you have it in basketball, where there's skills coaches working with specific groups. So that's just creeping into soccer, and they're looking into the products as well. So it keeps me entertained because ultimately you're not speaking to the same type of person on a call every day about like what you're trying to learn about the product and how you're trying to develop it as well with their
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah. So interesting to hear how people are using this technology for their different careers, their different. I mean, to have physical therapists versus club leaders. Like, it's just so interesting how the technology could potentially change so the way that we work in so many areas, in this kind of context. You mentioned you had, was it 55,000 current
Yeah, 45 to 50,000 active users currently, sorry.
Active users. Okay. Um, so tell us about on the business model side, is is it a do you pay for the app? Is it a subscription? Is it the technology that you wear? Do you buy that once and then you have it forever? Like, tell us about the the business model specifically of how does Playermaker make money, and then for on the consumer side, like how do they purchase and continue their life cycle with Playermaker?
Yeah, so we tend to be subscription model, and that price is like all in, kind of like there's no hidden fees, there's no buying the hardware. It's like if you pay like $189 a year, for example, that includes hardware, app, like everything's included in it as well. The only thing we don't include is if you've like torn your straps and you cut them on purpose, we ain't replacing them, for example.
Sure.
Um, which we've genuinely had that because one of the kids wanted a different color strap as well. So one of like the things that we've started to introduce is that customizability to really help with it. So instead of like, I don't want to say boring, but instead of a black strap, kids can have red straps, blue straps, or white straps. So it blends in with the color of their cleats, for example. And we thought that would have a big impact on the consumer. It's had a bigger impact on the elite market at the minute because like all the professional players like their color boots, so they don't want anything to impact that as well. So that's been interesting. But yeah, it's a subscription model, and that's like a annual recurring revenue for us as well. Like we have like just launched last month whereby you can start off like as low a package of 20, £25 and like use it for X amount of time. And then that price will just carry on, but you have to commit to a minimum of a 12 or 24-month contract. I
Okay.
think similar to your cell phone kind of deals as well.
Okay.
We
Okay.
looked at all different business models that are working in the wearable tech space and other space, and that's how we kind of adapted it.
Okay. So so it's a subscription model where you can pay by the year or by the month. Is that correct?
Yeah, great.
And that includes all of the technology, the software and the wearable technology. Um, what happens if they cancel their subscription? Do they keep the wearable technology? Do they send it back? What happens with that physical technology?
It it depends entirely on length of contract time, or if not, like we do put it into the agreement that like if you cancel, you are expected to return your hardware. If you don't, we will bill you for it as well, like with most technology companies and contracts as well. Um, like what tends to happen is that people, fortunately, like retention's been very good. Um, so it's our job to focus that we don't take too many of them back, but if they do return it, then they must return it back to us in a certain amount of days, otherwise they'll be charged, in which then we can utilize it, recycle the equipment and everything else to make sure that it doesn't just go to waste. So we want to be a sustainable company as well and not just see things go to waste. So sustainability and just making sure we look after our planet are big things to us as well. So we want to make sure we're not just filling up recycle, like what do you call it, a tip as well, like a dump site, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we don't just want to fill them up, so we want to make sure it's recyclable, it's able to be sustainable and renewable as well. So how can we use that system to either create a new case, right? We want new hardware for everyone, but can we make sure that we create something with that technology as well?
Yeah. Okay, so tell us about, you brought up a good point, the retention rate. What's Playermaker's retention rate?
But this is the interesting thing because we've only been like really a business for just close to 2 years on the consumer side of things now. Like there's two different kind of models because like the first year retention rates are looking about 65%, which I'm told is quite good on a consumer level. So we'll do that. But again, new technology, honeymoon period, we have to look further 3 to 5 years, but we're just that new technology. On the elite side of things, like we have very good retention rates, so anywhere between 85 to 90% retention.
Wow.
Um, just because, like, again, dedicated account managers helping to get success once clients have used us, it tends to be the opposite. It's not just about retention, they actually grow. So if you're a consumer, you buy one unit, that's it, kind of done. You might buy one for your brother or your sister. If you go to a professional soccer team, so like one of the stories that we have with one of the first clients was they bought it for the first team, goalkeepers, so five people. Then it went to goalkeepers and rehab, so 10 people. Then it went to the full team, 30. These are all like 6 monthly kind of blocks. Then it went to the youth team as well, which is like two teams. Then it went to the academy, which is another six teams. Well, so all of a sudden, like that retention's there, but then you have the internal growth as well. So you've gone from like a X amount contract to an X times seven contract. And that's why, while there's not as many teams on the elite side, it's very much a great growth potential opportunity for the business as well.
Yeah, very cool. And is that for both City Play and Playermaker, those retention rates?
So city player rates are slightly higher. So if like on that's why I said the scale is 60 to 65. So playmakers more 55 to 60, city player 65 to 70.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's really
Um,
cool. How do people usually find out about City Play or Playermaker?
so multiple resources as well. Most people find out around Black Friday just because like the offers are on. Like we're the top like youth soccer tracking product in the world on Amazon. So when they have like the Prime days, when they have the Prime deals, we get pushed to the list. If someone types in soccer tracker, it comes up as number one. And we don't sponsor it either, so which is great for us because like the ratings and the reviews like really help us. But again, we will do paid marketing kind of schemes, but this is one of the reasons for having both, and this is where we start the company from. Building up our elite team kind of profile, like to build that kind of organic noise about the company will then filter down to the consumable. So to give you an example, we've got like there's a online video now advert that goes around saying, well, these are three famous soccer players who are all wearing Playmaker. Here's a video of them wearing it. Have you thought about it for your child? Because we've made a model that can be filtered down to you. And so like the more we get like organic pictures of people posting on Instagram, because like so there's some clubs in the EPL, for example. So like we out of last season's top four, which is like the or top five Champions League teams, we had like four out of the five teams. Like we're not even really allowed to speak about any of them. We can speak about Man City, but technically we shouldn't say anything about the top team using us. And basically, when you look at it, you go, okay, we can't talk about them, we can't market it. But when you look on Instagram, when you look on X, when you look on Instagram, they're, they're all wearing the units and they're all pushing it. So if we just retweet it and have someone on social media looking at all their training pictures and just retweeting or reposting the picture, that's like organic marketing for us as well. Hence why we want to really ensure the elite guys have that success and have a high retention rate there because it shows that you should keep using it to stay cool or in line with the professionals.
Yeah, so a lot of it is social media in a way influencing it.
Yeah, it's also like if one kid gets it in their team at grassroots, all the parents, what's that? How do you get that? How we found yeah, social media and referrals, I would say.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. So how does Playermaker, the business, measure success? Is it all about growth? Is it about the number of users you have? Is it retention? Is it performance outcomes? How do you guys measure what do you guys measure to know if you're doing your job in the sense of are you being successful?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, all companies have investors that they have to speak to as well. So one of the big things for us over the last few years is the growth of the company. So how quickly can the company grow to over like 10 million ARR,
Mm.
like as well? And are we doubling our growth rate every year as well? So,
Mm.
for example, last 3, maybe 4 years, can't remember about fourth year, but we've had like a minimum of 2.2x increase per year.
Mm.
So it's just been really desirable to all the investors and stuff like that. Now it's shifted, so our mindset's shifted now to profitability. So you've had that rapid growth. Now can you adapt it and change it to profitability? Because for long-term benefit, profitability is going to be the best way, which naturally you'd think the two go hand in hand, but if we're paying for paid marketing X amount, so the cost of our goods, we're spending like 80% of that to make the goods, marketing and so on. If we sell a few less, but our cost of goods is around the 30%, that's a lot better for us. And we're in that transition now. So we just switched financial year, switched the kind of aim. So we've gone from that rapid growth. We still want to grow, but we want to also increase the profitability of this. Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. Um, how how widespread is Playermaker? I mean, obviously we have Europe and the U.S., but where are people that are using Playermaker, and where's your dominant usage at?
So the most dominant territories tend to be the English speaking companies as well. Uh, we are seeing a lot more increase within Spanish speaking countries as well now. So to give you an example, like Australia, the UK, USA, and Canada are probably the four biggest like regions for us on the consumer level. Um, on the elite level teams, we it's a mixture across the world. Like there's not like one hotbed of use. Like we do have a lot of like English teams using us, but like we've got good representation in Scandinavia, in like Eastern Europe, and also in Central Europe as well. And then Australia, like Oceania, we just came back from tournament. We've got a few clients in New Zealand, Australia, Thailand. I think we've got what, so it's very much it's spread on the team level, on the consumer basis, those four main hubs that are really like generating the interest. But again, our it just improved like the language barrier as well. So now it's how do we develop content with a non-English speaking team. So Man City might not be popular in South America, for example. Might not be the most popular team in Asia or the Middle East. Like, funny enough, the UAE is another big country, but that's because Man City owners are from the UAE, for example. So you have that to consider now as well, is actually who we're doing co-branded partnerships with. Like, and is our next co-branded product a team in a different part of the world? Is it an individual instead of a team? So not that we're saying we get it, but if you get a Lionel Messi or a Ronaldo, will they promote and advertise more than a club? Hypothetical. Who knows? Um, so yeah, so that's like kind of we're widespread, but on the consumer side, it's probably densely populated around the English speaking countries.
Very cool. Um, how do you think, when you think about this technology specifically in the youth arena, the youth sport arena, how do you think, or how have you been seeing, or how do you think it will change the overall youth soccer experience?
I think it's there to help with better conversations and facilitate better conversations. That's our big aim is that like it's great to be able to have people have the technology and great from business, but the main purpose and driving force behind like developing this tech was to ensure that we could provide elite insights for everyone that was digestible. And that digestible bit is the big one and the one where we're really passionate about. Like it wasn't like necessarily a big we were thinking, oh, coach and player can have better conversation, but the biggest feedback we've got is like it just makes the drive home from soccer practice or soccer match so much better for the kid and the parent as well. They have something to talk about. The kid's on the phone, They're not scrolling through YouTube videos. They're spending like, so on average, I think screen time in the app after a session is around that 5 to 6 minutes.
Mm.
That's a long time, like just to go, this is my number. Oh, great. And people are engaging and having conversations around it. So, oh, Dad, I got this. Or Mum, I got this score today. Like, they go, oh, why is this score not very good? And they have conversations about it. And in the UK, like just where I am focused and when I've had conversations states, it's similar. People go, my kid never talked to me after practice. Like there were always silent car journeys and stuff like that. But now I've got something that I can give them information about to assure them or talk to them about, right, well, how are we going to do it? And okay, if you want to improve that score, let's go out in the yard and practice, or let's spend the weekend like doing this and that. And yeah, it's just conversations between parents and kids has been a really positive outcome for us as part of this because it's that emotional attachment and stickiness to a product that like not expecting, but it's yeah, it's heartwarming really. Like that's if you can get that heartwarming feeling from a product, that's where you we give ourselves a pat on the back because as great as it is to make money, as great as it is to grow and retention, we talked about all those rates. It's like actually having an impact that's the biggest thing for us to really enable people to get enjoyment from a bit of technology. So yeah,
I love that. I love that so much because so much about youth sport is the community around youth sport. And specifically here in the U.S., I can't speak to other countries, but specifically here in the U.S., youth sport is such a family event. There's a lot of research around the parents' investment and the sibling investment in youth sport. And I love that you are focusing on building those relationships through youth sport and utilizing the technology to build family relationships, and the vehicle is just the youth sport. Okay, so you mentioned earlier about talent identification. Our textbook has an entire chapter on talent identification and ranking websites and really looking at youth athletes in a more professionalized way. How do you see, or how have you seen Playermaker participate in that, in the sense of identifying talent and ways to nurture that talent?
it's I'll start off with the how do we help find talent first of all. So like it's one of those where you we just finished a couple of projects off, so this is like fresh in the head. So we you imagine like the best players in the world will have some form of superpower within the space of like their specific sport, regardless of if it's soccer or anyone else, but we'll just focus on soccer for now because I've been doing some other projects in other sports as well. And like traditionally with talent ID, we've very much done like closed battery kind of assessment. So go do a 40-meter sprint or 40-yard dash, go do this, go do so mini combines in essence for all these sports. And you go, well, for an 11 or a 12-year-old, like they're going to show the true potential just from a physical battery. Bless you, by the way. Um, and are they really going to show their soccer technical skills in those batteries as well? So we like one of the projects, which is actually a published research paper by Michael King and colleagues from University of Glasgow. We use this like Scottish Performance Schools, which is like connected to the Scottish Football Association, and they basically run like a national talent ID center. So they have two regional trials, a couple of national trials, and then the final national trial. And so this project now into its fifth year next year. So just finished the fourth year data collection. We basically put all our devices on these 90 to 100 kids. They come do like the combine type screen, but then they'll go into 9v9 games because ultimately, like, how do scouts and these companies identify players? And they don't they tend to do it like at the top level, They'll do it from games because you watch a soccer player, they play well in a game. That's what you want. It's not necessarily how quick do they run a 40-yard dash in soccer. So we basically will do like an holistic model that incorporates, well, coaches, who would you pick? We're not going to show you the data. You pick who you would pick based upon your experience and your coach side. We'll then rank all the relevant data. There might be those like 5 kind of key categories we mentioned earlier. And then we'll also start to look at, well, when they do the warm up, let's put a 40-meter sprint in, let's do a change direction, let's do a jump, and then we've got some comparisons. And what always comes about at those kind of age groups is players who are more involved on the ball, move the ball quicker, spend more time on the ball in general. They're in the games are the ones that get identified. And physically, they have more opportunity to run more high speed, they're quicker, they accelerate, decelerate. So all of a sudden, it's like you've got this holistic kind of model in this small chip. It gives us a good idea of, okay, they deserve a bit more time to be explored a bit further. And this was one of the reasons why, going back to the conversation earlier about developing the scores and the ranking system, is that we develop the scores so the scores will change depending upon who you compare to. So we just finished the project actually with it's very similar to like the ECNL in the States. It's called the Junior Premier League over here. So there's about 40,000 players in the UK, all playing this league. JPL gave 500 units to their like top players in JPL, and then we've had another 1,000, 2,000 players buy the units. So I go, okay, let's try the Moneyball project on this data. Let's do the rank analysis of each age group for boys and girls. The best teams, selected teams, will go play Man City in a trial, and we won't talk about it unless like the success, because there we go. Otherwise, like it happens. Fortunately for us, there was a lot of success, and these teams went and played. On the boys' side, it wasn't as successful, but there were still like 1 or 2 players that went and got invited for trials at Man City. But Man City is one of the best academies in the UK. It's going to be a big ask. On the girls' side, and there's still a really good setup. There was like 5 or 6 players like that all were invited to go for trials, and they were from places that Man City would never have scouted because they just don't have the resources. Probably coming over to North America, your story, and I was listening to someone from FIFA at a conference recently. So Canada is one of the biggest countries in the world, but it's got the smallest population per area size of countries. So compare it to like in India or China, where it's really dense. Like Canada is so spread out. So you go to places just outside of Edmonton, you might have one of the most talented soccer players ever, but you don't have a scout that goes watches them. So, which they had a famous story of a player who is one of Canada's top international players, Alphonso Davis, who that was the case. So they nearly missed him because he was just in a remote destination. So how do you then facilitate finding that? And actually, if we provide these hardwares, it saves scouts going, we know the relationships, and then you can start to be smarter about your youth scouting and who you invite to these events as well. So I think in the future, what we found with our guys is that it's saving a scout travel miles and miles to go watch multiple games. So then these are the players that you should invite to then watch internally and compare. And most of the time, that's when it happens. So again, using that same theory, now we're just looking at different sports. So we have a project over in the Middle East that we're now in the second phase of. So it's all fun and games, really. But that's like kind of I say a whistle stop. That went on a little bit too long for me, so I apologize for saying.
No, that was great. No, that was great. I think it's just so interesting to think about the opportunities that we can give kids that don't have the same access as others, right? My one last question for someone that is an expert in the wearable space, can we zoom out a little bit, and can you give us just a brief understanding of the wearable technology space? So you talked about there being GPS units, and then how is Playermaker different from the GPS units, and are there other kinds of wearable technologies?
Yeah, to try and summarize it as best possible, if you work from top to the bottom, so like your head down to your feet, there'll be different wearable devices that go on different parts of your body, all with different uses and purposes. So like there's even things like instrumented mouth guards now to detect concussion, like ones that go behind the ear, like skull caps, and they've all got different uses. The GPS units that sit behind us, the reason they're placed there is because that's the best optimal signal for GPS to come down, which might not be optimal for some of the things we're trying to utilize. Because what you should always be doing is trying to put if you're going to use wearables, because this is where artificial intelligence and machine learning are starting to creep into this environment, which still need development, but some people will want to move away from wearables, but there's still always going to be a place for wearables in some domain. Is that the lower down you go, like you might have more specific use cases to an athlete. So, for example, if I'm a basketball player, I aren't going to try and detect like what my shooting technique is like from the feet. Likewise, I wouldn't expect us to look at our running technique from upper body mounted devices. So we've probably all done it if you wear like an iWatch or if you have your iPhone, if you shake it, like the old school pedometer that you used to get for free in like the cereal boxes, how many steps do you do? Well, I've done my 10,000 and I'm sat still. There's ways to cheat them, and there's ways that algorithms will have to be applied to do it. So the best thing to do with a wearable is get a wearable that's in the place that is most specific to the context and the performance question you're trying to answer. That's probably the biggest difference between most wearables. So like GPS, like will look at how you run based upon the signal because of the optimal location point there. We'll look at it like Playmaker will look at it based upon your running patterns and your gait. So it doesn't matter if you're indoors because GPS doesn't work indoors. You have to have infrastructure and add more technology and more cost. Whereas like Playmaker, no GPS, all IMUs, so it can work indoors, works on a treadmill, works in a basketball court, no additional cost required. So it means the scalability of that becomes bigger and bigger as well.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say is like information availability specific to your sport is the main instance. So.
Yeah. Super interesting. Super interesting. Okay. Rapid fire. You ready?
Go for it.
All right. What's your most memorable moment in your career?
Oh, good question. Winning promotion to the Premier League by winning the Championship playoff.
Nice. Sweet. That is a great memory. What do you consider your greatest success of your career?
Oh, good question. Excluding family life, of course. I would say like developing these metrics that have like impacted multiple elite teams around the world.
So cool. So cool. What's been a great failure that you've learned a good lesson from?
In one of my first jobs in professional football, I was sat giving a video presentation at half time to one of the coaches, and he said something, and like everyone took awareness of it. He told the player he didn't work hard enough in the game, like he was being lazy. The data came out from the reports. The player had covered the most distance, the most high speed, everything, and it was like the player immediately, before I could even like, go grab it off the printer, walked into the coach's office and said, "I'm not lazy. Here's the stats." So my reflection on that is to make sure that I have that conversation with a coach before a player sees it. Also, that like to educate coaches better on that. But it was new technology to us, it was new insight. So that was one of the biggest learning experiences. Hence why I always look at context now.
Wow, that is fascinating. Okay, don't get distracted by that, Hope. Okay, if you could go back to your younger self or give a current college student advice, what would you tell them?
My best advice to college students, university students, I still do this to some of my postgrads now, is never say no to an opportunity when it presents itself.
So good.
Just, yeah, like I got where I am by saying yes and not again like my first job for a year I wasn't getting paid, but like that's helped me get to where I am now. I'm not saying don't get paid, but like yeah, it's just too many students feel privileged now to you don't have to add this bit, but they just feel privileged now that we should get a job because we've done university. It's like, what about your internship? What about this? How do you get by? What skills have you got that are different? Because everyone's got a degree now, and yeah, all those kind of things. So, which is why I did my coaching background before the stuff. So, yeah, advice would be make sure you say yes to most opportunities as well.
Good, good. How has your personal experience in youth sport inform what you do now?
Um, I laugh because I've got some great memories working in youth sport as a technical coach, as well as like with what I'm doing now. And I laugh, and it's just remember that they are kids trying to have fun. Like it doesn't always have to be serious. It shouldn't be serious. So how can you make education fun and more enjoyable as well?
Love it, love it. Okay, last question. Who is your favorite coach of all time and why?
Uh, Good question. Soccer coach called Terry Venables. He was enthusiastic for life. I first got the bug for soccer during a soccer tournament called Euro 96. In England, it was the first time England had done really well at a tournament in my lifetime anyway. So yeah, he just basically like created an environment for players to enjoy themselves. And to this day now, you see some of the old players, they get interviewed about that and they always talk about how much they appreciate it and how he was never a coach that would bark orders at them, but he created an environment that they could all have a laugh in as well. Like there's some non-clean kind of stories that could be repeated, but I won't do. For the but that just shows that he created the right environment to facilitate that. And yeah, I there was one I don't know if it's a favorite coach because of like the success, but I worked with a what I would describe as a crazy Russian head coach, and he was just constant fun, like very challenging, but like methods were sometimes very abstract. So you would constantly be on your toes. You're like, is this really happening? Like, and pinch yourself. So that was like enjoyable as well.
Cool.
Point where I took him to a fair. He biked like 20 miles to come with me and my family to a fairground. And there's pictures of us in the local newspapers, like, and he's shooting like at one of those like duck kind of gun shows kind of. And it's just you get, how is this happening? So
That is so cool. I love that. I love that story. Well, Steve, thank you so much for your time today. And I can't wait for the students to learn more about Playermaker and go look y'all up and to hopefully insert it into their future youth sport experience. But thank you so much for taking the time. I am so, so appreciative.